Yes, good morning, grade 8. Welcome once again to our lesson today. My name is Teacher Eric, and before we look at something new, I would like us to do correction to the previous work that we did. Question number 1. List 4 factors that led to the outbreak of World War I, that the First World War. And previously, as we looked at it, we should first of all list the immediate cause of the First World War, which was the assassination of Francis Ferdinand. You see, that one must be written, who was actually the Archduke or the Prince of Austria. Then the second one was pre-war, that's before war, pre-war alliances. An alliance is when you come together with ally, made of ally. Allies are friends. So when friends come together before war, we talk and we say it, actually we call it pre-war alliances. So there were pre-war alliances. Then 3, Germany declared war on France. That led to the outbreak of First World War. When you declare war, that means you attack. You have pronounced, you have said that we are coming to attack you. That means you have declared war. So Germany told France that we are coming to attack you. We have war with you. Then question number 2. In which year did USA enter the Second World War? Well, this is grade 7 question. Actually, it's part of revision. The USA entered the First World War in December 1941. December 1941. Second World War. Sorry for that. The USA entered the Second World War, this World War II. It entered World War II in December 1941, and we all know that this was after it had been attacked by Japan. Japan had bombed its port, and that's why the US had to enter the war. Name 4 countries that belong to the Axis or Central Power in the Second World War. The countries are listed here below. We have Germany, Japan, Italy, Bulgaria. Bulgaria was also among them. These are central powers. So all the Allied powers were attacking the head war with the central powers. And the Allied powers, we know, we had the USA, we had France, we had Britain, we had Russia. They had war with the central powers. Question number 4. Which 2 Japanese cities were hit by American bombs in 1945? The 2 cities were A. Hiroshima, B. Nagasaki. A. Hiroshima, B. Nagasaki. There were 2 major cities that the USA bombed in 1945. That's when now Japan surrendered and said, okay, it's enough, no more war. Number 5. What is the meaning of peace? Well, peace is the absence of war. The absence of war. When there is no war, that is peace. Everybody is living in a peaceful way. Now, there will be continuation. We shall continue from there. That means that if you had any correction to make, please do that. You will do it in your books. Now, after the First World War, that's continuation of the previous notes. After the First World War, every leader in the world agreed that such war should never be allowed to happen again. Nobody wanted war again, because when there is war, you spend a lot of money to fight, a lot of money to train the soldiers and the army a lot of money to buy jets, aeroplanes, guns, and so no leader wanted that war again. The president of the United States of America then, called Woodrow Wilson, called for a meeting in France. The president then, he called for a meeting, and in this meeting actually they were supposed to sit and come up with something that will stop any other war. Now, because they were fighting Germany, it means that Germany was not allowed to attend the meeting. Other countries, the Allied powers, did not want Germany in the meeting since it was not a member of the Allied powers. But Woodrow, that's President Woodrow, wanted Germany to attend, but the enemies of Germany could not accept. Now, after the First World War, all countries agreed to form an international organization called the League of Nations. It's very important for you to know that. The League of Nations. So this League of Nations is like an umbrella or an organization, a group of countries. Nations are countries. When we talk about nations, these are countries. So a group of countries. Now this group of countries are those countries that believed that there should be no any other war. They came together to sign a peace treaty or a peace agreement, and they formed an organization called the League of Nations. The League of Nations was made up of all countries that had been involved in the First World War. And we shall be looking at further about League of Nations. We shall be looking at more about League of Nations. The League of Nations, actually, like I have said before, was an organization, a big organization. It was formed in January 1920, just after the First World War. Remember, First World War ended in 1918. So 2 years later, when they sat the meeting in France, they came up with a group. This large group is what we called the League of Nations. The group was having all the countries that had been involved in the fighting to form the League of Nations. This year is very important, in January 1920. The main aim was to keep peace and security in the world. When there's fighting and you have stopped fighting, what else do you want? You want peace. So they wanted to keep peace and security so that people don't die again. People all over the world believed that the League of Nations would prevent another world war. Remember, we had just finished the First World War, and people have come together to sign a peace agreement to form an organization called the League of Nations to prevent another war. The idea of the League of Nations was proposed by the USA and Britain. The League, when we talk about the League, we are talking about the League of Nations. Okay? And those of you who watch football, maybe the Premier League, Europa League, when we talk about Champions League, a league is actually a large organization, a large group of many teams, many countries, many people. So League of Nations means a group of nations. Nations are countries. Like in Africa, where we have 54 nations or 54 countries. So we are talking about League of Nations. Now, the League emphasized on respect for other countries. Respect for other countries. That you must respect your neighbor, you must respect your friend, you must respect another country. You cannot attack another country if you have respect. It also emphasized on peaceful solving of conflict. Conflict is problems. Later in the year 1931, remember this League of Nations was formed in 1920. So later in the year 1931, Japan violated the agreement. Japan disobeyed the agreement. It did not respect the agreement, and that's bad. How? They decided now, Japan decided to attack Korea. It started war with Korea, and this led to the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939. So friends of Japan came to help, and friends of Korea came to help. That is how that war started in 1939 and ended in 1945, like we learned previously. So this was the end of the League of Nations. Important things to note that one, after the First World War, we had an organization called League of Nations, which was formed in the year 1920 in January. The main aim, you should note that the main aim of the League of Nations was to keep peace and security. So if you are asked what was the main objective of, or the main aim of the League of Nations, you have to say it was to keep peace and security. It's important. In which year did Japan wage war, or in which year did Japan attack Korea? In the year 1931. They violated the agreement, and then later on war started. At the end of this, you are going to pause the video and copy the notes. Thereafter, you will write the revision exercise having only 4 questions. Question number 1, name the USA president who called for the meeting after the First World War. Number 2, in which year was the League of Nations formed? Number 3, name 2 aims of the League of Nations. Why was it formed? Number 4, in which year did the Second World War start? That brings us to the end of the lesson today. Please, you will also read notes about the United Nations on page 99 and up to 102 in your social studies textbooks. We shall look at also the answers to these questions when we shall be doing correction in our next lesson. Thank you for your time. Keep revising and be safe. Have a nice day.